Each week, you have a chance to win a t-shirt from Pro Wrestling Tees during Review-A-Wai. All you have to do is pay attention for the secret question and then submit your answer at Law Radio on Twitter, and you'll be entered into a draw to win your t-shirt, including our own brand of shirts at ProWrestlingTees.com/law.
It's Review-A-Wai for Monday night. Download a Tuesday morning from the Fight Network site. It's Review-A-Wai for Monday night on USA Now on the John and Wai Take the Mic.
It's Review-A-Wai. I'm John Pollock, joined by Wai Ting. And Wai, I guess this is the point of the show where Jason Agnew's music hits and he just walks in and interrupts us and is now part of the show.
Yeah, I guess.
Without any rhyme or reason, just, I'm here. I'm now on this show. No tease, no explanation, no real anything of this roadmap of how you got here. You're just here.
Just a lot of assumptions made.
Yeah,
He
by the viewer who has to figure this all out.
He probably had some backstage meetings with our Fight Network executives behind the scenes that, weren't aired on broadcast.
Yeah, where one manager goes, hey, I want him. And the other one says, okay.
I'll take your guys later.
All right. You on for the pay-per-view too? Okay, cool. Wait, first of all, let's address what everyone is thinking now that's watching the YouTube version. Have you recently had a haircut?
I did.
Man, you're looking sharp.
Just hours ago. How often do you cut your hair?
Once a week, sometimes twice.
Just like a number 2, I take it?
Sometimes
Number one.
number 1. That's kind of where I go.
Cool.
Short and to the point.
Yeah,
That's
easy.
me. I don't get adventurous.
I wish I could.
You've kind of got a Naomichi Marufuji kind of look to you right now.
Why do you say that?
Because it's black.
No,
and it's combed in a certain direction.
All right.
It's a compliment, Way.
Okay.
Much like his sliced bread. Yeah. It's looking very sharp.
Well, I don't know if it's necessarily race specific, this haircut. But I like the assumption.
Marufuji, nothing. Is he Asian? Didn't even realize. Are you ready to get into Monday's Raw on Long Island?
I'm so ready.
On Long Island.
Huh?
I'm just making it clear. They are on Long Island, not in.
I'm ready to finish this show.
I know you are.
Yeah.
The Miz and Maurice were ready to start this show as they came out dressed as John Cena and Nikki Bella.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll ever get sick of this, because the best part is that so many people live can't tell until several seconds in that it's Miz and Maurice.
Yeah, it was fine. It felt, though, as 1 week too long.
I thought it was fine for another week. Maybe if they did it another week.
This is probably the end of it.
Maybe.
They're on different shows now.
Yeah.
They come out, and Miz as Cena gets a Cena sucks chant to begin, and is as John Cena, he's saying he did not propose for the publicity, but says that we stink, we're not good actors, and had to come back to benefit their brands by being part of this superstar shakeup. So then Dean Ambrose interrupts the Miz and Maurice. And just like that, Michael Cole notes that all 3 of these members are on Raw. And I was like, oh, they are? That was it. Like, there was no... Yeah. I thought maybe we were going to have talent that were just going to be on both shows, and maybe we'd have angles leading to their official additions to each show. But no, it was just a cast of characters showing up on Raw, and we'll get an equal amount showing up on SmackDown, and that's the format. And it was kind of weird. I was expecting a lot more. I was expecting the GMs to be heavily involved in these shows, like working out deals where you could have some explanation from such. Like, why would you allow the Intercontinental Champion to just walk off of SmackDown? Mm-hmm. None of that was answered, at least on Raw. So Ambrose is out and says he's glad to see some familiar faces and congratulates them on the engagement because Dean Ambrose is so wild. He believes that John Cena and Nikki got moved to Raw. And he congratulates them on beating the Miz and Maurice at Mania because they are the worst. And how he proved movie critics wrong that he couldn't act, but says don't do anything crazy, like the Marine 5. And Miz then goes to correct him, and Ambrose realizes it's the Miz and hits him with the dirty deeds. And the shakeup has begun as one couple was salvaged on Raw, but one couple was broken up on the draft or on the shakeup.
Are you speaking of Renee and Dean?
That would be the couple that was not kept together.
Does Renee not do occasional Raw talks? Or only on pay-per-views?
They usually only do those on pay-per-views, Raw only pay-per-views. Though they did one last week.
This will be a test. It'll be a test of their relationship, you know. But I'm sure they're pretty solid. They're solid enough to get through it. But as far as the show itself, yeah, I was disappointed that they didn't have, a bit more of a explanation as to how these trades were to occur. Not even known whether or not they're actually trades, you know, just people showing up and all of a sudden it seemed to be a little bit kind of anticlimactic, you know. I almost seemed to, not that I love the idea of an entire draft, although with the way things turned out on this episode, you might as well have had a draft. But I kind of like the big scroll wheel with all the faces, you know, kind of that little bit of a drum roll anticipation to see
Todd Grisham yelling, Kane!
Yeah.
You should have listened to our podcast. I found the greatest call of Todd Grisham proclaiming Kane coming to SmackDown.
Right. But this also seems to put an end to the Miz Daniel Bryan feud for now. And I think.
What a feud it was.
Well, I mean, to me, I'm sad for Dean and Renee, but I'm even more sad that we will no longer get the Miz on Talking Smack. Because outside of Daniel Bryan, I think the Miz has really been the guy who has made that show. And, we won't really get to see those types of promos from the Miz in the near future, I take it.
Yeah, and I wonder how the Miz is going to be slotted on Raw, because certainly on SmackDown, I think you can justify a pretty high position for him. He is one of the top heels on SmackDown. Over on Raw, I still think he will do well, but on a show that features...
Not judging by tonight.
Well, tonight, yeah, we can get to that, but on a show that has Brock Lesnar as your heel champion, that has
Roman Reigns,
Braun Strowman. I mean, the Miz doesn't... Like, he could have a feud with Seth Rollins. That's conceivable, but it just seems that...
He seems a lot more mid-card here than he does on SmackDown.
Yes, and that's how he was presented tonight. Mm-hmm. It was more so the Miz of old than what he has done since last summer when he was reinvigorated on SmackDown and had the best run of his career over these last couple of months.
What about Dean Ambrose? You think that's a good move?
It can't be worse than where his position was on SmackDown. Mm-hmm. The jury's out on whether... he is still a character that you can truly have the potential that he had when the Shield broke up. He was the one everyone was looking at to be that breakout heel. I feel that heel run should come at some point with Ambrose because the wild babyface there's a ceiling to it, and we saw that ceiling on SmackDown.
I think Dean is definitely due for some type of heel turn or just some type of major character refresh. I mean, the guy is only capable really right now of a kickoff and a lukewarm Raw main event. I like Dean Ambrose a lot, but I think he needs definitely some real drastic change to his character.
All right. When we get to the end, we'll go through all the moves and even more importantly, moves that didn't happen. We throw to the break, and Michael Cole is teasing an interview with Roman Reigns tonight to address the rumors that The Undertaker's career is over.
The rumors?
The rumors, they were now identified. I mean, typically a rumor is something you hear secondhand. This case, the source left it pretty damn clear at WrestleMania. What was he doing, a strip show? Because that was the other option.
The thing is, he did it last year, too. He left his gloves in the ring last year.
But it was never acknowledged beyond, that was never made out to be anything afterwards.
They definitely made a bigger deal out of it this year. Although...
This one, it was a grand production.
It really was. Although, knowing The Undertaker, a week removed, I could hear him... I could see him thinking, maybe I'll come back.
And the person who loves that trait of changing your mind constantly, even if logic is defied by it? Vince McMahon.
Sure.
Oh, of course, yeah. Yeah, come back. Why don't we say you won the match? Let's add to your streak.
We'll make it a no contest.
Yeah, yeah, the commission overrules it. It was appealed. Kurt Angle's on his phone in the office, and Sami Zayn walks in. Neurotic Sami Zayn, which is how he is being described.
That's the character. Yeah.
Yes, people have compared him now to Larry David. He is Larry David as a wrestler.
Okay. All right.
That's kind of his attitude towards things, his demeanor.
Okay.
He asks if he's on Raw or not, and Angle says there's a lot of interest in Zayn. Zayn's like, well, how much interest? How can that be quantified? Miz and Maurice walk in and ask what kind of show Angle's running, stating they just left the tyranny of Daniel Bryan, and Zayn says bonjour to Maurice, as we had half of this interaction was Quebecois. And they argue together, and Angle makes a match between The Miz and Sami Zayn for tonight. Big E and Xavier Woods come out with the ice cream cart that was destroyed on Raw last week. Much like Roman Reigns, this ice cream cart can go through hell and walk through fire. They also had a Kofi Kingston blow-up doll. They announced he had ankle surgery, which was legitimate surgery, but it was not from the Revival attack. That was their storyline out, and he's only supposed to be out a couple of weeks. They cut a promo on the Revival, and much to my shock, Wai, this was a fairly serious promo by New Day standards.
As it should have been. Their friend was taken out.
They were holding a blow-up doll.
That's true.
And then they started doing their hip deal with the blow-up doll as well. So
I mean, how long? If a certain cruiserweight had signed after the Cruiserweight Classic, I would be looking forward to a match with that Kofi Kingston blow-up doll and said cruiserweight.
Oh wow, yeah, there could be a whole blow-up doll division.
Oh yeah,
with possible signings over the next while. The Revival come out, and Scott Dawson is unfortunately, I guess he didn't get the memo about the ice cream truck and its fate, was wearing an RIP ice cream cart t-shirt. And Dash Wilder was wearing a We Broke Kofi's Ankle shirt as a spoof on Greg Valentine's I Broke Wahoo's Leg shirt from 1977. So one shirt was appropriate, and the other, like it seems like last week, if you wanted to make some impact, and maybe this was the idea, was the end of the ice cream truck, that they destroyed it, the cart. But then they just wheeled it out, and it was fine. It wasn't even damaged. Big E and Xavier Woods took on the Revival. The Revival were in control of Woods. What a breath of fresh air the Revival is to this tag division. Like, they are just... I just grew to enjoy them so much on NXT because I couldn't see them weekly. So when they would end up doing... Typically on television, it would just be a squash match. But it had been like weeks, and I would look forward to watching squash matches with these guys because you didn't see them every week facing the same guys over and over, which inevitably will get on Raw. But for this week, this was a really enjoyable tag match. They cut off the ring with Xavier Woods, and eventually the hot tag was made to Big E, who hit belly-to-belly suplexes to both guys, hit a mid-ring splash. Then Big E's neck got snapped on the top by Dawson into a Dash Wilder schoolboy. Big E came back with a belly-to-belly to Dawson into the corner, and then Dawson laid down by the turnbuckle, and Woods on the opposite end scaled the top rope to do an elbow drop, but unfortunately, he didn't have the same kind of lifts that Shane McMahon did because he came up short here.
He didn't have the Shane McMahon vertical.
No, not at all. Maybe Xavier needs to get that vertical measured.
I think so. He
like
didn't
Naomi.
exactly come up short, but like he did land feet first and then drop the elbow. You know what I mean?
Dawson was really far over. He was
an
right at the rope.
It was an ambitious move. I'm sure he's pulled it off in practice.
See, Shane's smart because he has that cushion that is the steel can.
Of course.
The trash can. Big E lifts up Dawson for the midnight hour, but gets stopped, and then Woods dives off the top into this less than smooth shatter machine that was covered by the announcers calling it the greatest thing of all time.
That was ambitious too, but it certainly came across effective. You know, you could tell the guy.
Well, it was all in Xavier Woods because he rotated up onto his head selling this thing. I rewatched this 3 times, and it was.
It wasn't a picture-perfect move, but again, a very ambitious spot, and at least by the end of it, you could feel like the guy got hurt.
This was the shutter machine.
Ah, okay.
And Dash Wilder pinned him with the fall. So the Revival wins again.
Yeah, very solid booking, and you could only assume from this that the New Day are on their way out.
I drew that conclusion, that the New Day is probably on their way out.
Yeah.
Up next, they tease the fate of Seth Rollins. Is he alive?
Um,
The fate. We were going to find out. That was our tease going to break. His health, his well-being. Charlie was with Neville backstage, and they were in the back, and it was such a loud "We Want Ryder" chant going on in the building because they were
Long Island.
They were there in Long Island. Yeah. So anyway.
Yeah, it seemed like a really hot crowd because you could hear them.
Which Long Island doesn't have a reputation for, but this was a very good crowd on Monday.
I mean, I only say that they're hot, not necessarily because of the matches themselves, but because you could hear so much of their cheering in the backstage segments.
Oh, yes.
You know?
Yeah,
I don't know. Like, this is a crowd that loved all the backstage stuff.
Yeah, it's usually the opposite, but they gave you a lot to wish you were seeing in person.
Yeah.
Neville says that Aries is not on the Neville level. I could do without that term. Neville level is starting to approach WWE Universe level of annoyance. TJ Perkins walks up to him and says, "Someone is going to make you eat those words one day." Neville asks, "Will that be you?" "Yeah, I think it's going to be me." You ever imagine having a confrontation like this?
I don't think twice about it when I'm watching it, but to hear you repeat it is the funniest thing. It makes these things sound terrible. Oh my God.
When asked who is going to make him eat these words, he then goes on to tell Perkins that you were the inaugural champion and now your career is a joke and you have been overlooked ever since 205 Live launched. All the opportunities have gone to Austin Aries. Mm-hmm. Which are quite the opportunities, given that Aries has been inactive for a large portion of 205 Live's existence.
He largely means, the WrestleMania match. And he could have just said that,
Aries won a match that involved Perkins, remember, to get into the match.
Yes.
So Perkins can't really be upset. He lost a match. It was an elimination match. He was even pinned.
But I like the line. I like the idea that, hey, like Perkins came in with a lot of momentum, and really he should have been the one having the match at WrestleMania. And
I'm just having haunting memories of the Brian Kendrick TJ Perkins feud that kicked off this cruiserweight division.
You laugh, but I mean at the time I'm sure that was at least considered. Who else was there?
Oh, at a time. Yeah. I mean. Coming off the CWC, this guy should have been a superstar. Mm-hmm. Did not become a superstar. Aries walks into the shot holding a banana and says that Neville is lying about him being given everything. And Neville says he is the only one who can provide opportunities, and Aries isn't sure if Perkins is buying this or not. And Perkins, after threatening Neville, quickly had a change of heart. I guess Neville, maybe he can utilize the force on some of these undercard baby faces. And Perkins walks away, just looking at a crossroads in life. Mm-hmm. After that, Curt Hawkins. Curt Hawkins is in the ring.
Yeah, I'd like to hear the negotiations for this one. Will you please take him? We don't really want.
What do you guys want in exchange? Who are we going to lose? Curt Hawkins, maybe this was to complete a deal that they had. Maybe Jack Swagger was let out of his contract like an hour before it expired, and they were like, you just have our back at some point. And they're like, okay, here it is. Here's your make good.
Maybe he was traded for like $10 or something.
Hawkins says he is the greatest get since the Louisiana Purchase and wants a party to honor his arrival here to Raw. Big Show comes out. Hawkins goes in for a hug and gets hit with a knockout punch. And Cole notes that the Superstar Shakeup will continue on SmackDown for more intense moments like this.
I'm not really sure why an Apollo Crews and a Kalisto were .com announcements while Curt Hawkins got a spot on TV. I mean, in the end, this was really just something for the Big Show to come out.
That was the reason.
Punch. But why not use that segment to debut Apollo Crews?
To get punched?
No, just to get Apollo Crews something else. Why do you need to have the Big Show on this show?
Well, Crews at least got an interview on WWE.com. The others got graphics, and that was it.
Okay.
This is what I didn't want out of this, was just all these stupid moves that mean nothing. It's like, okay, we have underneath guys that mean nothing on one show, and now they mean nothing on this show.
Yep.
It waters down the brand split. I would have been much happier if it was maybe 5 guys move back and forth, and women.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, you do have to kind of freshen up your job squad too. You know.
Do you?
Yeah, I think so. I think it helps.
You haven't seen Kurt Hawkins lose on Mondays in a while.
But there's no reason not to move some of those guys too, right? I just feel like if you have a certain amount of TV time, you should use that to focus on the guys that you see a future with, and that includes Apollo Crews, certainly more so than Kurt Hawkins.
Then Austin Aries took on TJ Perkins, and Neville is on commentary, and they announced Neville will take on Aries in a rematch at Payback. Aries does a double sledge to the floor, posed on the barricade in front of this guy wearing a U.S. spinner belt, and this upsets Neville, this gloating. So he came down the ramp. Aries rolls back to break the count, and this became difficult because he had to have his back to the referee while the referee is counting, and he's got to pay attention to the count while this crowd's yelling 10. And he had to make sure that he didn't just stand out too long and he counted out. So this is this audience just screwing with a guy. And it's someone's going to get burned on live TV with these 10 chants when you book a count out or something, or just a 9 count for dramatic effect. Mm-hmm. So he runs back into the ring, and Perkins is playing possum and catches him with an inside cradle at 4:37. And Aries had the grin on his face after the loss. Ooh, you caught me look. So Aries is just standing around staring at Neville when Perkins attacks him from behind and hits him with a detonation kick off the shoulders. And the crowd sympathizes and announces to Perkins that you still suck.
Which is at least better than silence, which is what he was getting before.
Sure.
I guess I didn't, I knew that the crowd didn't like Perkins. I knew that they were booing him. I didn't know that they were basically kind of treating him like he was essentially like X-Pac. But except maybe a bit more withdrawn, because the fact that they're chanting "you still suck" suggested that these people really wanted to chant "you suck." But for whatever reason, they were really nice, or maybe they just didn't care enough to chant it beforehand. But nonetheless, I mean, you could tell that this kind of resentment towards TJ Perkins and his video game, kind of really cool 90s Capri Sun ad type of kid gimmick has existed for quite a while. So the heel turn, was a long time coming, and to do it on Raw makes it feel like it was a bigger deal. Now it's really all about the follow-up.
Seth Rollins is seen backstage, and he runs into Enzo and Cass, and there was no audio here for this interaction, so they had to rely on mime work of Enzo and Cass having a fake conversation with Seth Rollins about his knee, and just pointing and pantomiming. Mm-hmm. Seth comes out for his fate to be revealed. He didn't know if he would ever get to speak with the audience again. So I guess he was contemplating death as an outcome at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
He was in more pain than ever in his entire life the day after his match with Triple H, which is a hell of a feat given the injuries he has had over the last 2 years and the fact he had a match last Monday. So he came through. That's as I go over this now, what a ridiculous statement.
I mean, this segment really seemed like it was written for the night after WrestleMania. This, as well as the Bailey segment, felt like they were kind of...
They did what Agnew did with Title Bout Trivia this week. He wrote trivia last week and just saved it for this week's show because he didn't get around to it. Okay. That's what they did with this segment.
These felt like celebration speeches that probably should have taken place a week ago, but for whatever reason, maybe they didn't think they'd go over with the crowd last week as well. They saved him for this week.
Like, it's literally impossible that he was in the worst pain of his life last week when this guy missed WrestleMania because of the pain that he was dealing with.
Yeah. That was one of my issues with the match, was just sort of the inconsistent selling,
It was like the tag match didn't exist last week, that there was nothing with Rollins and Balor. There was none of that. He tells the audience, we did it. We slayed the King of Kings. He mentioned some unfinished business with Samoa Joe, and they showed a replay of Stephanie going through the table at WrestleMania, stating he won't be Employee of the Month, which there's probably a few people in this company that won't be Employee of the Month, knows that Stephanie will eventually return, and Rollins' face is going to remind her of Stephanie and Hunter's failure. So it would probably be easier to just pack up his bags and go to SmackDown Live, which I guess gives us a look into how easy this is to move. He could opt to just leave. Mm-hmm. So maybe some talent just decided to leave, and Raw is like they've got refugee status, like they have open borders. If you want to leave, you can come here.
I don't think so, but yes.
So, as he's contemplating leaving for SmackDown, this audience chants no. I have no idea why. Why would you be so heartbroken that you now have to watch this man on this very same network 24 hours later? I don't see what the emotional issue would be to Seth Rollins announcing, I am going to SmackDown. And it's a silly point I'm making, but to me, it also is, this whole show to me, I realize this brand split is, like, there's no attachment. There's no drama between talent going back and forth. That's what I felt on this show.
Why would there be any loyalty to one brand over another? They both travel to your town. You know, you have a subscription that pays for both of these things. So there's really no point unless you really wanted to see one guy have matchups with another guy. Or if there was more distinct differences between the two shows, which there really isn't, you know?
The first brand split, granted, when they began it, we did a lot of that, guys going back and forth on shows, and it wasn't a great start, but they waited 2 years till they did their first draft. And I'll definitely say it felt way more important, those first few years of drafts, where you waited at least a year, in the first one, 2 years, to where it did mean something of, hey, this guy's now on this show with these opponents, and I didn't get that sense at all on this show.
Right.
Like, at least for Raw. He says he took the easy way out before, and he's not going to do it again, and they'll need an army to drag him off of Raw. So Kurt comes out and says, you're right, Stephanie doesn't want you here, but praises Rollins for beating Triple H with one leg and says he has a home here as long as Kurt Angle is general manager, and then goes to exit the ring when Samoa Joe jumps Rollins. Angle tries to stop him. So we got Joe and Angle in a ring together in 2017. Mm-hmm. Rollins fought him off with an enziguri and a super kick and sent Joe out of the ring.
It was kind of odd seeing Angle out there and, you know, but trying to get in the way between the two, but refusing to get physical. Like he's somehow physically incapable of doing it. So it's interesting. It's interesting to see, like, you know, kind of Kurt just play this. When, like, I think everybody watching just wants to see him, like, stop Samoa Joe. You know, like, why aren't you putting your hands on Samoa Joe when you've beaten him?
Just headbutts him right in the face?
Yeah, that'd be great. But anyway, so the news here is that there's no news. Seth Rollins is not moving.
No, he's staying on Raw, and I would assume they didn't announce this for Payback, but this looks to be the Payback match. Mm-hmm. Charlie's with Kevin Owens, who put over some fake excitement when Charlie announced who had come to Raw. And he tells her to go find Chris Jericho and says he would relish leaving Raw to get away from Owens. But Chris isn't here, he says, because he's recovering from last week's attack. Owens calls himself the face of America and the #1 champion on Raw. He's asked about the Intercontinental Champion, Dean Ambrose, coming to the show. He says he's the man here and threatens to beat up Ambrose just like he did Jericho. They brought up this line here about him being the #1 champion on Raw, and later in the match with Ambrose, they stated, this isn't about titles, it's about being the supreme champion on Raw. And this show was weird because it was as though Brock Lesnar and the Universal title didn't exist.
Right.
The Strowman angle never happened last week. Nothing. There was no mention of Brock. There was no explanation for him disappearing. He doesn't look to be part of Payback. This is just strange.
It's also having the audience try to believe that either the IC title or US title are actually worthy titles that mean anything.
Charlotte came out, and Nia Jax was her opponent, which, based on the angle last week and the way this one ended, I think we can smell another send-off. There was this ugly, ugly shoulder breaker by Jax, and Charlotte survived this.
It wasn't exactly a shoulder being broken.
No,
it was her skull.
Yeah, this was not good. Jax applied this submission that just looked awful. I don't know what it was. I was trying to look at what she was trying. Graves tried to call it a modified Cobra clutch, but it was like her arm was going around and like cupping her, like her breast, and then was tying up her arm. And I don't know what this was doing to Charlotte other than submitting due to awkward discomfort. Charlotte came out of this, And this was also great because the submission was applied and all of the crowd turned to watch something else going on in the venue.
I think it was the Drifter.
In the audience?
Yeah,
Okay.
there was a screen grab that came online afterwards where the Drifter simply just walked through the back.
Okay, I'm amazed that many people turned to him in the crowd and knew who that was.
Yeah.
Maybe the guitar was to signify this is someone important.
I'm more curious why they would do something like this in the middle of a
It's
match.
his gimmick. He's a drifter, so that means he's just got to be wandering.
But I mean, I guess, but to have the crowd basically stop paying attention to one of their matches in the middle is kind of odd, isn't it?
Oh, it's weird.
Yeah.
It's weird. But maybe this will be his thing. He's just like, it won't wrestle. Just
Yeah.
be in weird spots. Charlotte came back with chops and boots from the apron, clipped Nia's knee, and then hit the natural selection, but Nia kicked out. Jackson ran shoulder first into the post. Charlotte drove her into the post, and then Charlotte climbs to the top, and Nia needed to catch her. Charlotte came up a bit short and floored her in the face with her shin.
Dude, this was like a Street Fighter guile kick, right to Nia off the top. Amazing.
I give Charlotte a lot of credit, but after that shoulder deal,
Well, that's not her fault.
no, I would say after the shoulder deal,
Oh.
I would be whispering to Nia, yeah, the moonsault, not tonight. I don't know if I would necessarily.
I mean, it could be her last match on Raw.
I think it is her last match on Raw, and that's why this match happened.
And that's why she probably wanted to do all the spots.
Maybe she's like, fuck it. Don't have to work with
Yeah.
don't have to do this match again. It's not like we're doing a 2-month program.
Yeah.
So Jax recovered from this moonsault. Both are down in the ring, and Jax hits an avalanche and a Samoan drop for the win in 6 minutes. Pins Charlotte clean.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any way you can see this as anything but Charlotte going to SmackDown.
A really ugly match, I thought. And the person going over really not ready for the role she's being elevated for. I really think Nia needs another year in developmental. She's nowhere near ready for this.
She's not like most main roster members. That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
Then we had a video feature on Finn Balor with a lot of the clips that'll probably be in the upcoming 24 piece on him. And plug Finn Balor coming up after the break. One of those classics where they don't want to promote the opponent, who was Jinder Mahal, which scoff if you must, but these two reportedly had a very good match at a house show in Montreal last month, but this was not designed to be a good match. This was just a showcase and a quick one. Mahal kicks at Balor while he's tied in the ropes, and Graves notes how Mahal has stated online that no one diets harder than him.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. Mahal blasts him, and I mean blasts him with a forearm like he was watching Shibata and Okada from Sunday. And Balor just crashes down and lands head first. Like he looked like he was totally rocked from this forearm. Like this was not just selling a forearm big. It was like
he face planted.
he was like he looked like a fighter that was just suffered a flash knockout, and he looked like a mess coming up from this. Like he had marks all over his face. Yeah. This looked brutal. Hit a sling blade, a running drop kick, and the coup de grace for the win in 246.
246, but the guy came out of it looking pretty beat up here.
Like this guy should have a Sherdog record after this match.
Yeah.
The lights go out, and the native of Bray, Ireland, is interrupted by Bray Wyatt, and says this is his new home. I would love to have seen this contract negotiation. Like they sit down, Bryan, Angle, and Bray Wyatt, with his ashes all over, and they're going over contract status and loopholes to get out. Bray has a new home, and it's Raw. But don't worry, the House of Horrors match will still take place at Payback with Randy Orton.
So it's at Payback?
It's at Payback.
So it's at the Raw pay-per-view?
It's a Raw versus SmackDown match at the Raw pay-per-view with the SmackDown champion. How weird is that?
Really fucking weird.
Like, I was just hoping this House of Horrors deal. And by the way,
when did they originally announce that match for?
They didn't give it. They just made the challenge last week.
Oh, okay.
So even better is somebody online posted a survey that was sent to them asking, what would you like to see in the House of Horrors match? So they don't even know what this match is going to be yet.
What were these options? You remember?
No, it was just like, what do you want to see? Open-ended question.
Oh, okay.
And this woman who just posted her survey just like mocked the hell out of it, and it was some very funny answers. I wish I had the Twitter handle, but maybe you can find it online. It was very funny.
Mm-hmm.
So he says the match will happen in 3 weeks. Finn's like, and I'm here for what reason? And Bray just says, I'll be watching you, and blows out his light. And that was our introduction to Bray Wyatt. Feels, I don't know.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Like, I feel like all these debuts on Raw should feel bigger, yet they just, I don't know. They just kind of felt a little.
Like, it's obvious they don't want to do this House of Horrors match on SmackDown to wrap things up. They want it on a pay-per-view, and they don't want to wait till the SmackDown pay-per-view. It's just...
It's a jumbled mess, yeah.
Like, to me, it would just... Do we need this House of Horrors match?
And to do it in a segment with Finn Balor is a little odd.
Yeah, it's like Finn now. What do you do with him for Payback? He's got to be on that show. And you've shot an angle now with him, but his opponent is tied up in another story. So Finn is just...
There are a lot of like weird kind of inconsistencies going on between last week and this week, and I have to wonder that maybe the writing crew wasn't necessarily prepared for some of these roster changes.
And the way it was structured too, it's like SmackDown this week. It's going to be just one-way traffic. It's not going to be like some magical opponent shows up for Finn to have. Like, it's whoever's on this roster is who you have to draw from for Finn.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I'm just thinking of the roster off the top of my head. I don't know who you put him with. If Joe is paired with Rollins, I don't know. So then we got the graphics updating us that Apollo Crews, Kalisto, Rhino, and Heath Slater are all coming to Raw. Kalisto is a no-brainer to be in the Cruiserweight division. Yeah. So that made sense. Rhino and Heath Slater don't matter at all. And Apollo Crews, we'll see. They brought him up to the main roster with no idea. They drafted him to SmackDown with no idea. And he's had nothing for the entire year he's been on this main roster. So whatever show he's on can't be worse than the year he's had of just nothingness.
But of all the guys that you're looking to shift, I wouldn't necessarily pinpoint any three of these guys as names that necessarily needed to move.
Kalisto, I think, made sense. Another thing is, if you look at to somewhat to Heath Slater and Rhino, but even Apollo Crews, a lot of these guys that are leaving, and The Miz would be the biggest example, leaving SmackDown is also, you're leaving that Talking Smack outlet that helped get a number of these guys over. Yeah. That you don't have that equivalent on Raw. The Miz and Sami Zayn was next, where Michael Cole noted that many people call Sami neurotic. Zayn clotheslines Miz to the floor and set up for a Tope Con hero, but was stopped when Miz used Maurice as a shield. They went through a break. Zayn was delivering forearms and sent Miz off the turnbuckle. Miz came back with a DDT, and then Miz starts with the Bryan kicks, but then gets caught with a blue thunder bomb for a 2 count. He sets up for the haluva kick, but Maurice pulls Miz to the floor, and Zayn chases after Miz. Maurice grabs Zayn by the leg to distract him. He turns around and counters the skull-crushing finale and rolls up the Miz to pin him.
Yeah, they call this an upset victory.
I would say I'd be pretty upset if I was the Miz finding out that this was the outcome here. And from hints I have been given, Sami Zayn is probably going to SmackDown as well. So this could be it for him, unless plans change over the next 24 hours.
So then why do this booking?
I don't know. But the Miz, it's one where...
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you want Zayn a little hotter for tomorrow.
Like, this didn't really feel as the start of some big program. But it didn't really do anything for The Miz, that's certain, other than it slots him as a mid-card guy on Raw. That's what he felt like on this show.
Sure.
And maybe The Miz ends up with Finn Balor, as I'm just thinking now. That might be Finn Balor's opponent. And we're not going to get to see our Miz Shinsuke Nakamura program.
Right.
I thought that was the whole tease last
What was
week.
the point of that last week?
I don't know.
Why did he interrupt?
I don't know when they decided on Miz leaving, but that was the tease last week.
Wow. Yeah, I don't know. I just question a lot of this. A lot of it seems really disjointed.
Michael Cole interviews Roman Reigns backstage and calls his win over The Undertaker the greatest win of his career, but it is bittersweet. He respects The Undertaker, but didn't prepare to retire a legend, even though that was the basis of many of his promos going into WrestleMania. He says he did what he said he would. This is my yard now. And Braun Strowman shows up and throws Reigns into a light. Those are big structures, Way. Like we have 3 of them here. That's a significant object to be thrown into. The attack continues. Strowman lifts up Reigns and throws him through a table, and then sends him into this garage. Then he lifts him up and delivers a power slam onto an equipment box. Then he grabs another one on wheels and drives it into the head of Roman.
Yeah, I saw this and I was like, good beatdown. This looked intense.
He could be out for months.
Yeah, I like this final stunt in this segment.
Yes.
You know, it looked good. They didn't do anything goofy. It wasn't too over the top. This was a good way for Reigns to go out for a week.
Yeah, now it was time to digest the impact of the moves, what you have just seen to really have an effect. Roman is placed on a stretcher. Strowman returns, which the audience went nuts for. And he runs the stretcher off of a ledge to the concrete floor outside. Now, they cut away so that they could do their phantom Roman Reigns switcheroo.
You don't think this was the real Roman Reigns?
I don't think Roman plunged with this stretcher hitting, like, it was like the edge of the board hit, and then it just slumped over onto its face, where the person falling on this would have looked a hell of a lot worse than Finn Balor after that forearm. So this man is dead, clearly. They get Roman Reigns up from this. They bring him to an ambulance and place him into the ambulance. Strowman is back. I'm not finished with you. Again, the crowd goes wild for this. Mm-hmm. So what's he going to do, Way? He's already thrown him off a ledge, and he landed face first on concrete. He has had an equipment box run full force into his skull. He places Roman. He is in the ambulance, and Roman is just lifeless. Strowman goes to the side of the ambulance, and he goes to lift underneath. And I'm just sitting back. I'm like, what is this? He lifts up the ambulance off its wheels. We cut to the side as he tilts this thing all the way up, and the ambulance falls down with Roman inside of this fucking ambulance. They did this once with the Big Show and Hardcore Holly, by the way, with a car.
Although I think the Big Show actually did it, with the car.
Yeah, this had some tricks attached to it.
Right. So,
like, this was a cartoon midway through. By the end, I don't even know what to describe it. This was a comedy segment by the end of this.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I thought the cart on wheels to the head, boom, great, nice. And then he flipped a Roman Reigns dummy off the ledge, and I thought that took it a little too far, It just made it funny. Like, you can't help but watch something like that but laugh.
It reminded me of the time they did it with Zack Ryder in the wheelchair, where Zack actually fell off the ramp.
Sure.
But again, goofy. And that's what this reminded me of, and what it gave you the emotion of.
Very clear camera cut, I'm like, they couldn't have just stopped, They had to take it a little too far. But I'm like, okay, whatever. And then they top that with the ambulance and a man lifting an ambulance and flipping it over to its side. But at that point, I'm like, now it's funny again. Like, now, like, this is just awesome. Like, they're just going so over the top that, okay, I'll take it. But by the end of this, this was really just definitely a comedy. And I can't help but feel like they had to design this knowing that this would get a laugh. both those things would get a laugh.
Or they're tone deaf.
Yeah, who knows? But the other thing that I could say about this is that I don't think that there's any doubt that Roman Reigns is a heel, because this was a total babyface segment for Braun Strowman. If there's any
attempted murder,
if there's any hope like that you would feel sympathy for Roman Reigns coming out of this, there's no way. Like it was designed to make Strowman look really badass. This is exactly what Austin did to Brett. Hijacked the ambulance, beat him down. You know, it's that same type of shit for your badass babyface to do. So, I mean, this was Reigns pretty much to me as a heel and a babyface reaction designed for Braun Strowman.
this was really goofy, but it was also very detrimental for when you need to do a major injury angle in the future.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, this guy is going to come back, and they've got to have a match in 3 weeks on pay-per-view. So
Why are they taking Roman off?
I'm just saying to sell this angle. I am not saying he won't even be on Raw next week. He might
He'll
be.
be back next week, yeah.
Again.
He'll be on SmackDown tomorrow.
You know what, Way? Like, nothing would surprise me. But when people don't buy big injury angles, here's example number one. Like, you went so over the top that it is completely inconceivable that this guy should be back in 3 weeks. And you're right. He'll be on television before that. I thought this was really stupid. As funny as it was, I don't think that's kind of the emotion you want at the end of a big kind of an angle that you only do a couple of times a year. And I think you just shot yourself in the foot for when you really need to do something impactful to draw money, which should be the point of an angle like this.
Yeah, I don't think he should have done this to... I mean, again, you know, if your intent is to make Braun Strowman a major babyface, what better way to do it than to make him do something ridiculous and almost comedic like this to the most hated guy on the roster? If that's their intent, I mean, I'm still not 100% sure what really their intent is, but that's the only positive I could see coming out of this, is that this is a big babyface thing for Braun Strowman.
Yeah, this to me was less Austin Brett and closer to Hogan Big Show on Cobo Hall, falling off the roof and then walking back in. Like, that's what this felt like. Cole said that he's been sitting at this desk for 20 years and he has never seen something like that, as the fans are singing goodbye to Roman Reigns. Mm. The Hardys, Cesaro, and Sheamus took on Carl Anderson, Luke Gallows, and the Shining Stars, who I had to think for a second if they were coming over from SmackDown or not. I totally forgot.
Of all the divisions anywhere, I feel like the tag team divisions on both brands need the most shaking up. And
well, they got Heath Slater and Rhino.
And that was it.
No Alpha, no Usos, none of that. There was really no changes.
So that was a little disappointing.
There was a gigantic reaction for the Hardys. They might have been the most over guys on this show.
Yeah, sure.
It's pretty big.
It was pretty big.
It was them and Braun on this show. Mm-hmm. Matt came out, did a delete signal at the top of the ramp.
But that's all he did. He came out, he still has a streak in his hair, but had pretty much the Matt Hardy Boys pants and the shirt, did V1 even. So this almost felt like he was playing a best of Matt Hardy compilation album.
Then Elias Sampson wandered out, who Corey Graves was disgusted by. So, I mean, he is on the right show with Corey Graves, with the history of Corey Graves just running this guy down. Although Elias Sampson will likely be, you would think, positioned as a heel. Cole mentions that the Hardys will take on Sheamus and Cesaro at Payback. And then Graves notes it's been a long time since the Hardys have been on a stage this grand. Cesaro fights out of the heel corner. Matt gets tagged in, big delete chant, hit a bulldog to Epico and a side effect to Primo. Jeff comes in, hits the twist of fate to Gallows as Cesaro and Sheamus clothesline Anderson to the floor. Jeff goes off the back of Matt with a somersault to the floor, and then Matt hits a twist of fate to Epico, setting up Jeff for the Swanton for the win. Again, the crowd was just super into the Hardys. The nostalgia of the Hardys and doing these characters won't last forever, but I think they will get a decent amount of momentum just as the Hardy Boys. Like, they are just such an overact.
Yeah, but I'll say, like, for me, I feel like even the second week in, they just kind of feel like another tag team, especially when you're placing them with a group like this. You know, last week, I mean, at Mania, they felt like the biggest things on the show. this week, I mean, what are the potential matchups you really want to see the Hardys again with?
Well, they gave them no one.
There's nothing else.
It's Cesaro and Sheamus, which is will be a good match.
Fine, but hardly something that
two babyface teams.
Compare that to them versus the Bucks. That everybody wanted to see. There's no teams like that for them.
Well, think of just their chemistry with the Usos and Alpha alone.
Sure, they were maybe a little better.
It was disappointing, the tag division situation.
Yeah, the other thing is that the fact that Matt seems to be incorporating hints of the broken character, but not really going full board broken. Tells me they don't have much plan for that storyline, because I feel like if they did, they would have had him save all that stuff for a bigger explanation. Or if they wanted to kind of try to explain it, they would have explained it a little bit on commentary. Here, it just feels like they told the Hardys, go out there, play the 2001 Hardy Boys. And then meanwhile, Matt just wants to throw some of his own, things in there. Like, hey, I'm still this guy, like cheer for me. I'm still this guy.
Maybe Lita's going to come back.
Maybe, I don't know. But from my perspective, it feels like the characters that the WWE wants him to play are simply the 2000 Hardys, Team Extreme, just like the Dudley Boys.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's as, the Dudleys, it was just like, how can you just be avoiding, like, these are characters, especially with Bully Ray, that has advanced so much.
Because Vince doesn't know Bully Ray. Vince doesn't know Broken Matt Hardy.
Well, I mean, their hands are somewhat tied, though, with the Hardy situation. I mean, it's not as though they can just snap their fingers and be those characters, at least not yet. Dana Brooks in the locker room reading a book entitled How to Be Your Own Protege. Emma walks in and says, let's go. And she explains that prior to her leaving, Dana was her protege and is the reason Dana debuted on Raw. And she's returned to pick up the pieces after Charlotte dumped her. Dana says that was last year, and the women's division has gotten better. And that's including me. I may not be the best, but I'm paying my dues and learning to stand on my own 2 feet. And I am not aligning with anyone anymore. And Dana left. So Dana is all on her own. And so is Emma.
Right. Yep.
They teased Bayley as they went to a commercial break, but then instead, Sasha Banks came out. She says she has unfinished business and welcomes out just Bayley. Bayley comes out and thanks the people for having her WrestleMania moment and for believing in her. Banks says WrestleMania didn't go her way, but wants to congratulate Bayley, but says that moment is over. And right as she's about to make a challenge, Alexa Bliss comes out to a pretty good reaction. Mm-hmm. Bliss calls the audience, or Bayley and Banks, nauseating and quickly turned the crowd as they were very much cheering for her. Calls their friendship weird and will take over the Raw women's division, which did draw cheers. Mickie James is out next, and she's also coming to Raw. She goes over the title she has won, says that Bliss's nightmare has just begun, but then she gets nailed from behind by Nia Jax. There were a lot of sneak attacks on this show. Many. Bliss pushes Sasha at Jax, and then Nia goes after Bayley, laying her out with a Samoan drop, and holds up the title, telling Bayley that's hers, and passes by Alexa on the way up the ramp, and they just stare at one another, and Nia leaves. Mm-hmm. Watching this, and this being the idea, I'm even more confused why Nia was inserted into that WrestleMania match and beaten. It's like WrestleMania didn't even happen with this woman.
Yeah, my guess is that they just wanted her on the show, and that was the only spot for her.
Which was clearly not the original call when you saw the program for Mania, and it was just a way to get her spot on the show, which is great for her. Mm-hmm. But it's when you were doing this after, like, she's just this unstoppable monster.
Yeah. That we just saw stopped. Yeah, I mean, it did take 3 of them to beat 1. So it wasn't exactly like inconsequential. It was like a giant. It was like Braun being taken out of the Battle Royal. Anyway, Alexa to Raw, I think, is a good move for her. I think it's a big jump for Alexa. She's moving from a roster of kind of predominantly newcomers like her, at least in ring, and she's moving to a roster of more seasoned in-ring performers like a Bayley or a Sasha. And to me, like, she seemed a little nervous here. being in the ring with those two.
Alexa?
Yeah.
I thought she was pretty good here.
I thought she was pretty good too, but she, that's my own sense. But I think, she'll be perfectly fine, a few weeks in. But
I will say the combination that this division now has, Nia Jax, Alexa Bliss, and Dana Brooke, those are some pairings that they should not risk on live television.
Yeah. I mean, the new Raw women's division, on paper doesn't look all that appealing to me.
Do you see anyone else leaving? I think Charlotte, that seems a pretty obvious one. Do you see anyone else leaving?
Yeah, I do. It'll be 1 for 1, right? You could expect at least two names.
So who do you think that would be?
Well, it seems like they're still building something for Sasha and Bailey, but
I wouldn't want to separate those two.
Yeah. But who else could move? It could
maybe Emma goes.
I don't see Nia moving. Could be Emma.
Like she's not really attached to any of this.
Yeah. It's just kind of meh. But it all comes down to your booking, Like when we looked at the SmackDown women's roster, that hardly seemed inspiring at the time when they first started. But now they've become a really pretty interesting group of girls. So maybe now, hopefully on Raw, I don't mind the idea of like a Nia Alexa team, with one sort of as the muscle, the other as the promo. But anyway,
and Mickey being there, I think, is a positive as well.
Mm-hmm.
They announced Jack Gallagher and TJ Perkins for 205 Live tomorrow night. And then they replayed Reigns' attack, and we get a medical update, Way. Go back if you missed our description of what this man went through, okay? A tipped ambulance. He has suffered cracked ribs, internal injuries, and possibly a separated shoulder. And they said he's really lucky. Yeah, he's really lucky that that box to the cranium being tossed off a stretcher for a 5-foot fall onto his face and an ambulance being tipped over with him inside the ambulance strapped to a stretcher. He could possibly have a separated shoulder. So what are they going to do? An ambulance match at Payback? Is that the match? I feel it has to be.
I guess, yeah. How do you top an ambulance being flipped over? It's
Dynamite.
Should be an ambulance match where the goal is you trap your opponent in the ambulance and you flip it over.
Yeah, that would be logical. Do that. Maybe Reigns can just Superman punch it over. They announced Kevin Owens and Chris Jericho in a rematch at Payback. Yep. And then our main event, Kevin Owens and Dean Ambrose. They went through a break. Owens was in control. He threw Ambrose off his shoulders into the post on the floor. Ambrose made a comeback with a suicide dive and then landed in the WWE Universe, Cole noted. Ambrose crotched Owens on the top and then clotheslined him off. Crowd was chanting for Y2J as Ambrose blocked a pop-up powerbomb. Owens hit him with a super kick. Then Owens tried to hit him with the dirty deeds, but Ambrose rolled away, hit the dirty deeds himself, and pinned Kevin Owens to be the supreme champion on Raw.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was. I just didn't get into this match.
Because it's Dean Ambrose and Kevin Owens. Two people with no storyline attached to them, with two belts that don't mean anything.
But even apart, for as long as this brand split has been, it was still a match I feel I've seen 100 times.
I get that sense with a number of pairings right now, but I think it comes down to the fact that really the split wasn't all that long ago.
It was July.
Yeah, so it wasn't even a full year. On top of that, Dean Ambrose really is a lukewarm character. One that again is capable of kickoff main events. So
you really have it out for this guy.
Am I not speaking the truth?
No, you're not alone.
So yeah, this main event I thought was hardly inspiring, and I feel like the crowd even was getting restless, chanting for Y2J in the middle of all this. So it's just all a little disjointed, this show. I found it kind of a bit underwhelming, considering kind of the big event feelings of previous draft shows. This one just kind of felt like names were being announced all of a sudden, being injected in the middle of like storylines that were ongoing already, and overall, it just kind of felt a little directionless.
So at the end of this, Chris Jericho's music hit, and he came out, charged the ring, and hit Owens with a code breaker to end the show. And, I kind of think that the crowd definitely peaked with the Strowman angle. Like, that's what it felt like.
Yeah.
I feel like you could have closed the show with that. Because this just felt like not really a show closing kind of angle with Jericho just showing up.
Right, yeah.
Anyway. So that was Raw. The talent moving to Raw altogether were The Miz, Maurice, Dean Ambrose, Apollo Crews, Kurt Hawkins, Bray Wyatt, Kalisto, Heath Slater, Rhino, Alexa Bliss, and Mickie James.
Wow, that's a lot of names.
That was a lot.
How many names?
3, 6, 9, 10, 11. 11 altogether going.
Okay, so expect a similar amount for tomorrow.
Yeah, close to it probably. I mean, you figure Charlotte. We said, do you feel that they will do the champion for champion deal? Was this Owens send-off from SmackDown losing this match?
100%.
So then you've got Charlotte, Owens,
New Day,
Sami Zayn, and who else? Who else could you see moving?
Name all the people on the roster.
Oh boy. Well, think of on this show.
Whatever.
Do you see Reigns or Strowman moving?
Reigns or Strowman? Well, we don't know with Reigns yet because he's incapacitated right now.
Who would want to draft him now?
Yeah, anyway. But let's talk about who on SmackDown hasn't gone. And I think a big rumored name was AJ Styles. He's
not moving.
Staying. Everybody else has. So I think SmackDown will still look very different. But, with AJ staying as that pillar, John Cena occasionally being that pillar, Nakamura being there. Yeah, so.
Yeah, SmackDown to me, still a very strong roster, and they're only going to get additions this week. Think about the women's division. If you get Charlotte in there, you have the opportunity to redo the Natalya feud without maybe a Montreal Screwjob this time around. There's options. There's definitely, I think, some upside there. I still don't rule out the fact of if you are going to separate Reigns and Lesnar, if there's an opportunity that you move Lesnar to SmackDown, but it's like then Bray beats Randy Orton for the title to bring it to Raw. You could do that.
It's interesting, but then you have.
It just is hard to have Lesnar and Reigns on the same show if you're going to hold off on this for a year. Like, why would you? Just logically, why wouldn't you go to that match when this guy's beaten The Undertaker? He is.
So who does Brock feud with on SmackDown?
On SmackDown, AJ would be one, who's now a babyface. Nakamura. You have a lot of matches with that guy. Cena could be a SummerSlam program. You have done that. I get that. There's still the rematch with Orton, which they could always go to, I think, coming off of SummerSlam last year. You've got options with Lesnar and whoever else. Though the Strowman program's been teased, and that would have to be a Raw program. So we'll see what they do on SmackDown.
Yep.
This didn't feel like a momentous Raw. I think it kind of fell below expectation. That is going to wrap it up for us, though. We will be back on Wednesday. We will go through whatever moves are made on SmackDown Tuesday night from Boston, so you can check that out as well. The Law is up from Sunday night, featuring Donovan Dijak on the show, Dave Meltzer. Lots of stuff to check out at liveaudiowrestling.com. All our regular shows coming out this week. And we also have a review of the New Japan Sakura Genesis card that went down from Sumo Hall on Sunday. So for Wai Ting, I am John Pollock. We will chat with you later this week. Each week, you have a chance to win a t-shirt from Pro Wrestling Tees during Review-A-Wai. All you have to do is pay attention for the secret question and then submit your answer at Law Radio on Twitter, and you'll be entered into a draw to win your t-shirt, including our own brand of shirts at ProWrestlingTees.com/law.